The crystal chandelier seemed to dim as I pushed open the double doors to the ballroom, my hand tightly clasped around Mallory's and the folded marriage certificate burning in my other fist. My mother's smile froze mid-conversation with the business partner's family, her eyes widening in horror as she realized her carefully orchestrated plan to save our empire by marrying me off to a man was about to crumble in front of New York's elite. The grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel pulsed with the low hum of violins and the clink of champagne flutes, but every head turned in our direction the moment the heavy oak doors swung shut behind us. I could feel the collective inhale of 300 of the city's most powerful people, CEOs, hedge fund kings, society columnists already tapping notes into their phones. My mother, Victoria Thompson, stood at the center of it all in a custom ivory gown, her perfectly highlighted hair catching the light like a crown. Beside her, Mr. Richard Harrington and his son Derek offered the same polished smiles they'd practiced for the merger photos. Derek, tall and blandly handsome in his tux, held a ring box that was supposed to seal the deal tonight. I kept walking, Mallory's fingers steady against mine, the only anchor in the storm I was about to unleash. She wore the deep red gown we'd chosen together last month in that tiny Soho boutique, the one that made her blue eyes look like storm clouds. I could smell her perfume, something clean and citrusy that always calmed me. At 31 I was supposed to be the poised heiress of Thompson Dynamics, the tech firm my grandfather built from a garage into a billion-dollar empire. Instead I felt like the 28-year-old woman who had spent the last 6 years hiding the only truth that mattered. "Cecilia, darling," my mother said, voice tight enough to cut glass as she stepped forward. The crowd parted like water. "You're late." "And who is?" I lifted the certificate so the gold seal caught the light. "Mom, everyone, I'm already married. To Mallory Hayes. We did it 6 months ago in Vermont. Quietly. Legally." The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the ice melting in someone's drink. Then the whispers erupted, sharp, electric, spreading like fire through dry grass. Cameras flashed even though the official photographer hadn't started yet. Derek's face went from confusion to disbelief to something darker. Mr. Harrington's mouth opened and closed without sound. My mother's hand flew to her pearls. "This is not the time for jokes, Cecilia. We have contracts. We have 3,000 employees whose jobs depend on this alliance. The lawsuit is exactly why I'm doing this." I cut in, my voice steadier than I felt. "I won't trade my life for a merger that was never going to fix what we broke." Mallory squeezed my hand once, a silent "I've got you." I could see the fear in her eyes. She knew what this would cost her too, but she stood taller beside me. That small gesture gave me the courage to keep talking. Security moved in, but my mother waved them off with a single sharp gesture. "Private room. Now. All of you." We were marched through a side door into a smaller salon lined with oil paintings of dead Thompsons. The door clicked shut and the real storm began. My mother turned on me like a hurricane. "Do you have any idea what you've just done? The board meets tomorrow. The Harringtons are ready to inject $200 million to keep us afloat after that data breach nightmare. One headline tomorrow and our stock will tank. Again." Derek leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "I thought we had an understanding, Cecilia." "There was never an understanding," I said. "There was an ultimatum. Marry your son or watch the company I love burn. I choose neither." Mallory spoke for the first time, calm and clear. "We're not here to destroy anything. But Cecilia won't destroy herself to save it either." My mother laughed, a bitter sound. "You think love pays lawsuits? You think the press will be kind when they find out the Thompson heir is married to her former outside counsel? The same counsel who helped draft the very documents now being used against us." The room spun for a second. I hadn't expected her to weaponize Mallory's job so quickly, but I refused to flinch. "Mallory resigned the day we decided to get married. She's not part of the defense team anymore. This is personal." "Personal?" My mother stepped closer, voice dropping to a whisper that somehow hurt more than shouting. "Personal is what got us sued in the first place. That breach happened because someone inside leaked client data for personal gain. Now you're handing the media the perfect distraction. Heiress rejects merger for secret lesbian marriage. How do you think the conservative investors will react? The ones we need to keep the lights on." I felt Mallory tense beside me, But she didn't let go of my hand. That grip was the only thing keeping me from screaming. I had spent years watching my mother trade pieces of herself for the company, missed birthdays, canceled vacations, a marriage that ended because my father couldn't compete with Thompson dynamics. I refused to become her. The door opened again, and my younger brother Ethan slipped in, phone already in hand. "Mom, Twitter is exploding. Someone live tweeted the announcement. We're trending." My mother closed her eyes for one long second. When she opened them, the fury had hardened into something colder. "Fine. You want to play this game, Cecilia? Then we'll play it. But understand this. Tomorrow the board will vote on whether to remove you as heir apparent. And if they do, every cent of the trust, every share, every board seat you thought was yours disappears. You walk out of here married to her, you walk out with nothing." Mallory's thumb brushed my knuckles once, steady. I lifted my chin. Then I walk out with everything that actually matters. The night was only beginning. By the time we left the plaza, the city felt different, sharper, louder, like someone had turned up the volume on every siren and camera flash. Mallory drove us home in her old Subaru because my driver had been instructed not to take us anywhere. The certificate lay on the console between us, creased from how tightly I'd gripped it. "You okay?" she asked softly as we crossed the Brooklyn Bridge. I laughed, but it came out shaky. "I just blew up my entire future in front of 300 people. Ask me again in the morning." She reached over and rested her hand on my knee. We knew this day would come. We planned for it. We had planned late-night talks in her tiny apartment, whispered promises that love was worth more than money. 6 months ago we'd stood in a small town hall in Vermont with 2 strangers as witnesses and promised forever. No press, no family, just us and the quiet certainty that we were right. But planning and living it were 2 different things. Back in our rent-controlled 1-bedroom in Park Slope, I collapsed on the couch while Mallory made tea. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Texts from board members, frantic emails from PR, and one from my mother that simply read, "Fix this before sunrise or don't bother coming home." I opened Twitter. The top trending topic in New York was Cecilia Thompson out. Someone had posted a blurry photo of me holding the certificate. The comments were a war zone. Half calling me brave, half calling me selfish for risking 3,000 jobs. One verified account from a major investor wrote, "Thompson Dynamics stock just dropped 9% in after-hours trading. Congrats on your wedding, I guess." Mallory handed me a mug and sat beside me. "We can still walk it back. Tell them it was a joke. I'll disappear for a while if that helps." I set the mug down so hard tea sloshed over the rim. "No. I'm done disappearing. I disappeared for years while we dated in secret. Hotel rooms, back entrances, pretending you were just my lawyer. I won't do it anymore." She looked down at her hands. "Your mother isn't wrong about the lawsuit. The breach exposed medical records of thousands of patients. Families are suing for millions. The Harrington merger was the only lifeboat left." "I know," I whispered. "But marrying Derek wouldn't have fixed the breach. It would have just given the press a shiny distraction while we quietly settled, and hoped no one noticed the executives who actually caused it still had their bonuses." Mallory pulled me into her arms. For a long minute we just breathed together. Then she said, "Whatever happens tomorrow, we face it together. No more secrets." I nodded against her shoulder, but inside I wondered how long together could survive when the entire city wanted answers and my family wanted blood. The next morning the New York Post ran the headline, "Thompson heiress spills tea and marriage license at engagement party." My mother called at 6:47 a.m. "The board meeting is at 10. Your presence is required. Bring your wife if you must. Let's see how long she lasts when real money is on the table." I hung up and looked at Mallory, still asleep, dark lashes against pale skin. I traced the curve of her cheek and made a silent promise. No matter what they threw at us today, I would not let them break us. The boardroom on the 42nd floor of Thompson Tower smelled like expensive leather and fear. 12 men and 3 women in power suits stared at me as I walked in with Mallory 2 steps behind. My mother sat at the head of the table, spine straight, eyes like flint. "Take a seat, Cecilia," she said without looking up from her tablet. "And your guest." Mallory didn't flinch. She pulled out the chair beside me and sat with the same calm she used in courtrooms. I loved her for it. The chairman cleared his throat. We've reviewed the situation. Stock is down 14% since last night. 3 major investors have already called for an emergency vote on leadership succession. The Harringtons have withdrawn their offer. I kept my voice level. Because I refused to marry their son. Not because of who I love. One of the older directors leaned forward. Love is lovely, Cecilia. But 3,000 employees don't pay their mortgages with love. The lawsuit is at $200 million and climbing. We needed that merger. My mother finally looked up. We still can salvage it. Derek has agreed to a quiet engagement announcement. Provided you issue a statement saying last night was a misunderstanding, a performance piece, whatever story we feed the press. Mallory can be relocated to our London office. Generous severance. Mallory's hand found mine under the table. I squeezed back hard enough to hurt. No, I said. The room erupted. Voices overlapped. Legal risks, PR nightmares, fiduciary duty. My mother raised one hand and silence fell like a guillotine. Then you leave us no choice. Effective immediately, Cecilia Thompson is removed from all operational roles. The trust fund is frozen pending further review. And the company will issue a statement distancing itself from your personal choices. I stood slowly. You can take the title. You can take the money. But you can't take the truth. Thompson Dynamics was supposed to stand for something better than forced marriages and cover-ups. If protecting the company means destroying its soul, then maybe it deserves to burn. Mallory rose with me. As we walked out, cameras waited in the lobby. Microphones shoved toward us. Cecilia, is it true your mother disowned you? Will you testify against the company in the class action suit? I stopped, looked straight into the nearest lens, and said the words I'd been holding for years. I will tell the truth. About the breach. About the cover-up. And about the fact that love is not a scandal, it's the only thing worth saving. That night the stock dropped another 8%. My mother left 3 voicemails, each colder than the last. But Mallory and I sat on our tiny balcony watching the Brooklyn lights. And for the first time in months I felt light. Until the next morning when the accident happened. The call came at 7:12 a.m. Mallory's car had been rear-ended on the FDR by a paparazzi SUV trying to get a shot of her leaving our building. She was okay, just whiplash and a bruised shoulder. But the photo of the crash was already everywhere. Headlines screamed. Lesbian drama causes car wreck. Thompson heiress's secret wife targeted. I raced to the hospital, heart hammering. When I burst into the room she was sitting up, pale but smiling. Hey wife. Told you I'd be fine. I kissed her forehead, careful of the bandage. This is my fault. No, she said fiercely. This is the price of living honestly. And I'm willing to pay it. The doctor discharged her with pain meds and strict rest. But rest was impossible. By noon our building was surrounded by news vans. My phone rang constantly, reporters, lawyers, even Ethan, who whispered that Mom had suffered a mild panic attack after seeing the crash footage. That afternoon I received an official letter from the company's general counsel. I was being named in the class action suit as a person of interest because of prior knowledge of security vulnerabilities. The lawyers wanted me to testify against my own family. If I refused, Mallory could be subpoenaed as my spouse, her entire career destroyed. We sat on the couch surrounded by takeout containers and legal pads. I can take the stand, Mallory said quietly. Tell them everything I saw when I reviewed the breach documents. But it means your mother could go to prison. I stared at the ceiling. She built that company. She sacrificed everything for it. But she also let people get hurt. Mallory touched my cheek. You don't have to choose between protecting her and protecting the truth. But you do have to choose between silence and us. That night I couldn't sleep. I walked the dark apartment listening to Mallory's even breathing, and realized the real crisis wasn't the lawsuit or the stock price. It was the slow erosion of the woman I loved. Every headline chipped away at her confidence. Every death threat emailed to our shared account made her check the locks twice. I had dragged her into my war, and now I didn't know how to end it without losing her. The next morning my mother showed up at our door unannounced, looking 10 years older. Cecilia, please. Come home. We can fix this quietly. The board will reinstate you if you issue a retraction. Mallory can stay in your life, discreetly. I stood in the doorway, blocking her view of the woman sleeping on our couch. Discreetly is what broke us for years, Mom. I won't go back. She looked past me to Mallory's sleeping form. Something in her face cracked. Then you've made your choice. But remember, when the company folds and those employees lose everything, their children will blame you. Not me. She left without another word. I closed the door and leaned against it, tears burning. Mallory's arms wrapped around me from behind. We'll get through this, she whispered. But for the first time, I wasn't sure we would. The courtroom was packed the day I took the stand. Cameras lined the back wall. My mother sat in the front row beside the company's lawyers, her face a mask of controlled fury. Mallory sat 2 rows behind me, wearing the simple navy dress I loved, her shoulders still taped from the crash. The plaintiff's attorney asked the question everyone had been waiting for. Ms. Thompson, did you have knowledge that Thompson Dynamics ignored security warnings 6 months before the breach? I looked straight at my mother. Yes. I saw the reports. I begged my mother to act. She said the cost of upgrades would hurt quarterly earnings. Gasps rippled through the room. My mother's hands clenched in her lap. The attorney continued. And after the breach, did the company attempt to silence victims? Objection. Overruled. I swallowed. They offered settlements with NDAs. I refused to sign off on them. The cross-examination was brutal. The defense painted me as a disgruntled daughter, trying to destroy the family legacy out of spite. They brought up my lifestyle choice as evidence of instability. Mallory's face stayed calm, but I saw the hurt in her eyes every time they said our marriage was a publicity stunt. During the lunch break, Mallory and I escaped to a quiet stairwell. She pulled me into her arms and for a moment the world disappeared. You were incredible, she whispered against my hair. I'm destroying her, I answered. You're telling the truth. There's a difference. That afternoon the judge called a sidebar. When we returned, he announced a settlement had been reached in principle, contingent on my mother stepping down as CEO. The courtroom erupted. My mother stood slowly, looked at me for one long second, and walked out without a word. Outside on the courthouse steps the press swarmed. I held Mallory's hand and faced the microphones. Today wasn't about revenge. It was about accountability. Thompson Dynamics will be better for it. And so will I. That night the stock actually rose for the first time in weeks. But at home Mallory was quiet. When I asked what was wrong, she finally said, "Your mother called me this afternoon. She said if I really loved you I'd leave before I ruined what's left of your family." I pulled her close. She's wrong. You are my family. But the seed was planted. For the first time I saw doubt in Mallory's eyes. 6 weeks later the company was under new management, and I was officially fired from the board. My mother had moved to the Hamptons house and refused all contact. Ethan texted occasionally, short updates that things were tense but stable. The lawsuit settlement had saved most jobs, but the damage to our name was permanent. Mallory and I stood on the same Brooklyn balcony where we'd celebrated our secret wedding night. The city lights glittered below us like they had the night everything changed. Her shoulder had healed, but something between us felt fragile. "I've been offered a job in San Francisco," she said quietly. "Full partner track. No one there cares about the Thompson name." My stomach dropped. "You want to leave New York?" "I want us to have a life that isn't defined by your last name. I love you, Cecilia. But every time I walk down the street someone recognizes us. Every time your mother's name appears in the news, I see the guilt in your eyes. I don't know how long I can watch you carry that." I turned to face her, the wind tugging at our coats. "Then we go together. New city, new start. I'll find something, consulting, nonprofit, I don't care. As long as it's with you." She searched my face for a long moment. "You'd really walk away from everything?" "I already did the day I walked into that ballroom with you." Mallory smiled then, the first real smile I'd seen in weeks. She pulled me into a kiss that tasted like salt and hope. When we broke apart she rested her forehead against mine. San Francisco it is. We left New York 2 months later with 2 suitcases, and the marriage certificate framed in our new living room. My mother never called. Some nights I still wake up wondering if I destroyed more than I saved. But every morning I roll over and see Mallory's face on the pillow beside me, and the answer feels simpler. Love wasn't the easy choice. It was the only one that let me sleep at night. Was choosing love over family legacy the right decision? Or did it destroy everything we held dear?